Welcome to the Michael Blum Show, where we talk about things you don't want to talk about. We talk about sex. We talk about politics. We talk spirituality and substance abuse. Join us by calling 800-699-0980. Think, speak, and be heard. Here now is Michael Blum. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Michael Blum Show. We are doing a live broadcast tonight on the beautiful August the 20th evening. It is here in Boca Raton, Florida. There's not a cloud in the studio. Very, very nice day today. I think it was only 108 out, no, about 92 degrees out. And it didn't rain over my house, just over most of South Florida and most of the entire state. We have two seasons here in Florida. That's hot and wet and hot and dry. We're in hot and wet right now. Sometimes I like hot and wet, depends on how it goes. I cut my finger on a mandolin, by the way. That's about a quarter inch. I was going to make some beautiful scalloped potatoes yesterday, but instead I had beautiful scalloped Blum. And so I'm not allowed to get it wet. That's why I'm covering up my messed up hair with an appropriate hat for this evening. It's called Sold Out. We have a wonderful guest who's going to be talking and we're going to be talking about a lot of things that people really don't want to talk about or hear about too much tonight. But I wanted to start this off with a video. I think it's an important one, and it's an old one. It features someone that most millennials will never know who he is or what it is. His name, he was a comedian called Red Skelton. So I want you to just listen to this, please.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. It was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. And he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others, for all. for all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Well, there you have it. Red Skelton, many, many years ago. Almost makes me cry, really. I know, and it may make me sound like a kind of like a real soft moron or whatever, and I don't really give a damn. But that kind of attitude just doesn't exist anymore. And he was very predictive in that people consider that to be religious or somehow, and people don't pledge to the allegiance to our flag anymore. I could talk more about this myself, but I'm going to have some help here from someone who is really well versed in religion, well versed in politics, an author, podcast host, a philosopher, an attorney, and a friend of our show. I want to welcome Mr. Andrew Shatkin to the Michael Blum Show. And folks, if you want to reach us tonight, feel free to do so. You can call us at 800-699-0980. That's 800-699-0980. How you doing, Andrew?
Michael, it's great. I'm extremely happy that you have given me the opportunity to be on your show. I'll tell you why, Michael, because I think I know you pretty well. You don't mind people stating the facts and nothing but the facts. I'm concerned with the facts and the truth, and I'm not concerned with skating around it on the ground of political correctness or whatever reason people want to concoct. I'm willing to look at the facts, and if somebody wants to differ with me, that's fine. That's okay.
Sure. Well, everyone has an opinion, and I guess at some level, an opinion can't be wrong because it's your opinion. However, I think a lot of people have opinions that are wrong. But
well, they do. Because their opinions. As I said, Michael, I don't want to interrupt you, but their opinions are based on considerations that are not factual.
Sure.
They're political.
And political is everything. I have this kind of this mathematic concept where I always say politics plus X being whatever variable you want, equals BS. Because once you get politics,
that's right.
Once you get politics involved, that's what you wind up with. There's a lot of bullcrap because the idea is not to be truthful. The idea is not even to be helpful. I was very, very naive a couple of years ago, Andrew. I actually thought that the United States government had us on the list somewhere. Maybe after you paid off all the graft from the people that got you into power and you made your own money and you secured your own future, then maybe the constituency would matter. I now believe that the constituency does not matter at all at any point in time. And basically, we're just an evil that's needed to go ahead and get people elected. As soon as the United States government can figure out a way to get rid of elections, which I do believe they're working on, it starts with, do we really need an electoral college? And it winds up with, these voting systems are so inaccurate. Look at the problems we have, Russia and all of this.
Michael, let me put this to you. I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead, please.
Let me put this to you. You know that the left ideology wishes to bring in people here illegally and regard them and have them regarded as citizens. They are out to eliminate the concept of citizenship and replace it with anybody can walk in and can vote and can be part of our democratic system. You don't have to be a citizen anymore.
No, you can even get health care. I mean, every single Democratic potential nominee raised their hand. That means since they can come illegally, I don't know how they would plan on doing it. That means everybody in the world we would have to pay for health care because anyone can come in freely. Then there's no stopgap or gate at the door, no gate watchers or anything like that. Absolute and total moronic nonsense. How anyone with a thinking
They're going
mind
to
could
put it
think.
over, though. No,
I certainly hope
by
not. And
admitting people in and giving them rights and health care and education and and making them, for all intents and purposes, citizens. What about the people who are citizens? Where
well,
are
they
they
don't.
going to go?
Yeah, they don't count because their vote has been taken into account already. If it's a black constituency, well, that's Democratic. Unfortunately, if it's a Jewish constituency, that's still Democratic. So I don't think that the Democrats are going to be wasting their time going ahead and spending one dime or talking about anything that has anything to do with constituents that they own. I look at it as a new type of slavery, to be quite honest. I think it's throw a bone to the dog and let them chew on that. Um,
President Trump, let me put this to you. President Trump has brought more economic prosperity to this country than any president that I can remember. More jobs, and these jobs have been placed and are in the minority communities, blacks and Latino. I like to know why our black brothers don't see the truth of what's going on. They are being provided with massive numbers of jobs in their communities.
I, you know, it's the old adage. I used to ask people, well, why are you voting this way? And they say, well, my father was a Democrat, and my father before that was a Democrat, my grandfather, and I'm a Democrat. It's almost as if Adolf Hitler was running, which we may get close to that at some point in time, they'd vote because he's a Democrat. And I think people are coming around to it. I certainly hope so. I hope that Trump wins in a landslide because
Do you think the blacks are going to wake up?
I think some of them will. I don't think anything happens really very quickly, particularly in terms of societal evolution. Let's put it that way. I always think that no matter what you're going to do, people will tend to become more liberal in the old sense of the word. I don't mean progressives and leftists, but I mean more liberal and understanding to other groups as those other groups assimilate more. Um, it's a completely different world now. Uh, I look at racism in a very different way. I think that racism is a natural thing. I think that people are afraid of people outside of their own family. I think it's a protective mechanism. So I think everyone has that. And I think everyone's a little bit racist sometimes. And that's okay. That's as long as you're not denying people their livelihood or hurting them physically or doing anything I sound like a libertarian now. Anything
Right.
to go ahead and take away their
Let me ask you this,
civil
Michael.
liberties,
I
I
don't
think
want to
you're okay.
interrupt you. Every time the Democrats cry race and racist about the president, they are targeting the emotions, feelings of the black community. They are manipulating through these words that issue of race, that they feel they have been disregarded, been treated unfairly on a racial basis. Therefore, when race is cried often enough, they buy into it.
Sure, they do. Well, look, of course, we're a racist country. I mean, how else could we have elected a black president twice? Because we're so racist. I mean, it's a matter of can you just pull your head out of your ass and smell something for real? I mean, it's like it's obvious we're not racist. There are black millionaires. There are black billionaires. It is what you can do. It's just much easier, Andrew, to go ahead and cry and be a victim. There are people all over the world who can live in mud and squalor and disgusting crap and not really care about it too much. Um, this whole crew of people to me reminds me of like sixth grade president election. I'll put soda in the water fountain. And if it's for free, for free, for free, it's ridiculous.
One of the most outrageous
Crazy.
accusations concocted by the left about President Trump. I remember it because I'm in New York and I read the New York Times, and I'm not happy with it particularly. I don't read it anymore. But I did read it, and they said he was anti Semitic. And that man, half his family is Jewish.
Sure. Well, they have to say something. They were screaming for 2 years, collusion, 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 Russia, Russia, Russia. Now it's going to be racist, racist, racist. That's the next 2 years until the election because that's
But
all they've got.
doesn't the race card work with the black community?
Some of them. Some of them will say, "Yeah, yeah, sure." People love to go ahead and rally behind someone who they think is on their side. Um, it's Trump has to do more of what he did with the black congressional caucuses, and Mr. Scummings over there. I mean, the worst. If you want to see the worst in America, go to any city that's been run by Democrats for 40 years, 20 years, 25 years. You'll see the worst
Well, so the
schools.
Democrats,
Yeah.
by crying race, they get the blacks lined up as they have been lined up for years
Hmm.
with the Democratic Party.
Yeah, it's like they vote on a horse that they know will never win for them.
Right.
And
They refuse. They have. They have been so convinced of the racism that is addressed by the Democratic Party, they cannot give it up.
Well, like I said, hopefully some will. I mean, I know that there were black people that did vote for Trump last time. Hopefully this time there would be even more because if they look at the job figures, they should have some type of a realization. However, a lot of them that are not working really don't give a goddamn about the job situation because they don't work. It doesn't affect them at all. Give me my food stamps, which has been reduced dramatically under Trump, and give me my welfare check and my housing support and all of that, and we're good. I
But
think.
they got to know, Michael, they got to know that by addressing the deportation of illegal aliens and people illegally here and not having them here, those people are taking jobs from the poorer minority communities that need those jobs. He is helping those people by addressing the illegal elements in our society and deporting them. He is assisting the
Hmm.
poor blacks and Latinos to get employment.
Well, obviously, I agree with that. It's very hard sometimes for someone who's lived in, uh, what can I say, a different world. And there are people, Andrew, that are living in a different world. I mean, I have them as guests.
Why
I,
can't they think this through?
I think it takes too much time, too much intelligence, and it takes admitting to yourself that you're responsible for yourself. No one else is. I mean, to me, it's a joke that people think the government is going to do anything. I mean, they can't mail a letter successfully without losing money. Um, like the thing with climate control, whether you believe it is a truth or not, if you think the government is going to do something to control climate, you're a moron. It's just never going to happen. It's never going to
Right.
happen. It's just a money grab. That's all it is. And it's never going to happen.
How can the left put across the obvious false statement that people who are legally here should be loved, we should be concerned about them, we should help them? How can they reach that conclusion knowing they are in violation of the laws of our system?
They don't care about the law. They don't care about anything other than trying to garnish a new set of voters. That's their only concern. If you told the Democrats, you know what, we're going to have total amnesty. Anyone can come to the United States that they want. However, there's only one stipulation: they cannot vote in any election for 30 years. None of them would approve of it.
Didn't people, Michael? You probably remember this and have the facts on this issue. Didn't it used to be that people had to take a test to become a citizen and
Yeah,
had to have certain knowledge?
they had
I
to
think
also
there
not be
was,
a burden
wasn't
to the
there?
United States. Um, when people cry about the Statue of Liberty, hey, if you want to go back to how immigration was run back then, my pleasure.
I think it was a test or something, wasn't there?
There was a test. There was, like I said, basically you had to have some type of grasp of English, even if it was minor, and
You
even
had
if
to
it
speak
was,
English, didn't you?
yeah, but even if it was just like, where's the bathroom kind of English.
Right.
You need you were never eligible for any type of social programs. They didn't exist back then.
No,
When
they
there was
didn't.
major immigration into our country, there were no welfare programs. There's no food
Well, that's
stamps.
why those people, if you recall, maybe you recall, at least I have some recollection of it because I remember my grandmother and my grandparents, everybody had someone help in the house, even if they didn't have a lot of money, because people needed those jobs.
That's it. And it's very interesting because this week, um, the company, surprisingly, it was called Coke, but it's not the Koch brothers. It's a different company. same name, and I forgot what they manufacture, but they had an ice raid and they got rid of about 300 or so employees. And those jobs were immediately taken by Americans. So that whole fallacy of which I remember we were fed many, many moons ago, even by some of the more moderate Republicans, that Americans just won't take those jobs, is nonsense.
No, it
People who,
isn't. That is a liberal ideological lie that certain people won't take those jobs, and the illegals are the only ones that will take them. That is a lie.
well, of course, obviously so. I mean, I remember I had a relative who's like an uber liberal. Um, I mean, the Pussy Parade the day Trump was elected,
Mm.
and all of that. And it's my sister-in-law. But I remember she said, "Well, don't you think you have illegal aliens cutting your lawn?" I said, "The first guy who cut my lawn, his name was Glenn Radomski. He was a nice Polish guy. The second group I had
Mhm.
that cut my lawn was the Salamedia brothers, Italians. I said the third bunch of people I had was the Brooks, and they were all black." And I said, "I don't know what the hell you're talking about." It's not just menial labor, and that the only group that will take it are illegals. That's just absolute nonsense. But
You know another, and
people
Michael,
believe what they
because
want.
this is a great show. You know another liberal ideological falsity that was, I think it's been put over. The engineers from India were the only qualified people to hold these technological positions. There is no. I do not believe that American engineers cannot hold those jobs.
Sure. I agree with you. Of course, they can also work in 7-Elevens, according to Joe Biden. You need that accent to do that. Uh,
But there
so
are plenty of American engineers 100% qualified for those positions. I don't think you have to go to India to get someone.
I agree with you. I don't think so either. Not at all. Not at all. I want to switch gears a little bit. Um,
Go ahead.
I'm just curious what you think of Ilhan Omar and Talib and these
Okay, I have
obvious.
discussed this with various friends of mine, and I don't want to speak on areas that I lack knowledge. I think I'm told that they are connected with the Muslim Brotherhood. I'm told they support Hamas and Hezbollah. I think it's obvious. People tell me that. I don't know whether it's true or not. I think they are grossly and disgustingly anti-Jewish and anti-Semitic. I don't think. I think they say the things that they say because that's where they're coming from and that's who they are.
Well, boy, you're not gonna get much opposition from me on that. Obviously, it's anti-Semitic. I can't imagine a congressperson saying, it's all about the Leroys. The Leroys. You know what I mean? The
Right.
Leroys.
Well, to me, we fought a world war on this issue of essentially racism gone madness. We fought a world war, and the state of Israel was established as a result of it. I'm not prepared to take the current anti-Semitism. I think it's horrible, and I don't. I think Trump was right. I don't think these people should be part of our society.
I don't think that they are. I think that they're a separate illness. Hopefully, it doesn't spread like a cancer because that would be very, very unfortunate. But Jew hatred is always popular. Once you start to get leftists involved and things seem to be a little bit amiss in society, the Jews get blamed for it all the time, all the time. You
Well,
know,
I think that the new development is, and I think is what has come about is that anti-Semitism used to be more associated with right wing, maybe. That's not the case today. The left wing has taken under its umbrella, some of them anyway, this anti-Semitism. I think so,
well,
and
I never thought I'd quote him, but Eldridge Cleaver said, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So anyone and everyone in Congress who's just sitting there quietly is making a statement also. And it's funny that as you move through society, there are certain groups you're allowed to hate. And call names about, I guess. And then there's some that you can't. You can't say
Well,
about the Muslims what people would say about the Jews, and
the
certainly,
Muslims, they will not concede the fact, and it is a fact, and I'm interested in facts like you, Michael. I'm not interested in political or correctness or that kind of, frankly, that bullshit. I'm not interested. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to discuss it. But the fact of the matter is that the Muslims have been dead set. I don't know if it's Muslims. Certainly, Arab countries surrounding Israel have been absolutely dedicated to the destruction of the Jewish state. And let me say something else. Have you heard of David Horowitz? He's a speaker. He's a conservative speaker. He interviewed an MSA student, Muslim Student Association, in
mhm.
San Diego. You know what the student said? She said she supported Hamas and Hezbollah, and she said, "Do you want to see every Jew end up in Israel to be murdered?" She said, "Yes." This is where these people are coming from, Michael.
Oh,
These are the
absolutely.
facts.
And given enough support, I have absolutely no question in my mind that history would repeat itself, and that
They are out to destroy this. They are out to murder every Jew that they can find, and possibly do it to in the state of Israel, and as many as they can find. And also, I don't know whether you knew this, the MSAs. Those have been investigated. They are absolutely radical Muslim organizations. These student organizations. I have an entire dossier on it. They
sure.
are grossly anti-Jewish and anti-Semitic.
Well, I got to tell you a story. Um, Two stories, very very quick. I was Jewish by birth, and I didn't really study my own religion until much much later in
Hmm.
life.
Right.
So I went out with girls of all types, Jewish girls, non-Jewish girls. I
Hmm.
um, I went out with while I was in college, undergraduate. I
Hmm.
went out with a girl, beautiful girl, very very nice, and we
Hmm.
went out to eat somewhere. We were just passing a synagogue. I guess there was a wedding or something like
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
and a lot of people were congregating outside. And
Hmm.
she said to me, "Gee, look at all the Jews."
No
And
kidding.
and
I guess you didn't go out with her again after that.
uh, that was a quick handshake. Have a nice evening. you know,
Yeah,
I thought it would
that's
be more than
prejudice.
that, and it probably would have been, but that's all it became.
Hmm.
And I don't think she was overtly anti-Semitic. I don't think she would do something to hurt someone
No, I think
because
it
they're
was just her
Jewish,
family background. It
you know,
reflected her
and
family
and
or
and
something.
that just popped out. But at the same
Hmm.
time, the Brooklyn College, which is the university I went to,
Hmm.
um, had a magazine called The Kingsman, which was the college magazine, and they published an article called "Who Hates Jews." And
Hmm.
when I picked it up to read it, I figured it was going to be some type of a satire. But basically, it was in praise of Hitler, and it was that all the Jews are disgusting and they should all be killed. The cartoon that went with it was, "What's the difference between a pizza and a Jew?" And the answer was, pizzas don't scream when you put them in ovens. And this was the college newspaper. Everybody on that college newspaper was fired, along with the academics
Hmm.
advisor for it. But those two events happening so close led me to realize for the first time what my background is, and
Well,
more horrifically, that people will hate me just because of what my background is without even knowing anything about me at all.
well, Michael, we all have to come to a realization that some we have to in our lives, depending on how long you've been around, that there is a tremendous amount of hate in the world.
No question about it. That seems to be,
It
um,
seems to be the major force, doesn't it?
well, that's the Democratic platform. It's the platform, it's the party of hate. I mean, there's no
Well,
issue
they are
really
certainly
there.
manipulating people by that method. So, what do you think? I mean, uh, the uh, the Muslims, to me, first of all, I don't dislike them. They're probably just regular people like anybody else, hardworking family
Mhm.
people. They may not even think about religion, or they just may go along with things where they live, and that's it. Likely. But the fact of the matter is, do you think? I know this is a dynamite question, Michael, and many people do not want to answer it. Do you believe under the surface the Muslims in the United States, within their communities, within their mosques, are dedicated to the destruction of our system?
You said destruction of our system.
Yeah.
Yeah, they believe in Sharia law. I mean, there's a survey that was done, and I know Ben Shapiro published the data for it. And if you want to believe his data or not, he's usually pretty good with
Mm.
that part. Um, and basically, he did a survey, and almost every single Muslim country wants Sharia law. And Sharia law is anti-Israeli and very, very violent. And the Quran is a horribly violent publication. Well, so is the Torah also. But the difference is that
There
Jews
are
aren't running.
the difference
Jews
is,
aren't
see,
cutting
the
people's
difference
heads off.
is I don't believe that the Torah or the Bible, yes, certain elements do involve acts of violence, but the Koran specifically endorses the killing and execution of apostates, the killing of infidels. These are directions. They, if you I have the Koran at home. That's what it says.
Hmm. And you know,
It does say that.
if people weren't acting on it, who would care? Like I said,
Right.
Jews aren't running around lopping people's heads off, and creating wars.
Well, do you
I think
know?
out of every
Let me
single
put it
war,
this way.
yeah, go ahead.
They say about Islam that they're peace. It's a religion of peace. Bullshit. I'd like to know, as you say, what Jews and Christians are going around out of their synagogues and churches, going around lopping off people's heads. I'm not aware of any of those groups doing that. What about Buddhists? I'm not just talking about people in the West. Buddhists are quiet. They have these monasteries. They're quiet as mice.
Sure,
I mean,
because
they're completely harmless. And the
there are
Hindus, the same thing.
yeah,
They
there are
don't
a
do
lot of
anything to
people who
anybody.
actually live life according to their own beliefs, and their beliefs are
Yeah,
not
they're very
bad.
quiet.
Just very, very quiet about all of
They're
that.
not. So the fact of it is that with Islamic people have got to deal with the reality of unfortunately the nature of their system.
Um, they're willing to not deal with that and to twist that around so that they can go ahead and get a piece of the United States. Before the show, we were talking about England. I mean, forget your bangers and mash and your fish and chips. You're going to go there, you're going to be eating shawarma. The whole area has changed. That's a very, very big difference between immigration then and now. Um, Many years ago, when you had immigrants that wanted to come to the United States, they wanted to be Americans. They wanted to assimilate. They didn't come in waving the flags of other countries that they were leaving. Um, there's just so much, if the government, if the United States is such a horrific place, according to the Democrats, why then would they want people to immigrate to such a horrific place? Maybe they should all go to Cuba.
Why is it the Muslims don't go to Saudi Arabia? Why don't they go to Pakistan? Why don't they go to Afghanistan? If these societies they say they are so wonderful and their religion is so fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
why don't they go to those places?
Well, just before I switch gears again with you, I just always found it odd that people before Trump got elected, you had a lot of celebrities that said, if this guy becomes president, I'm going to go to Canada. I'm going to get out of
Right.
here. I never heard one of them say, I'm going to go to Mexico.
They did say that,
I think they're not going to go to Mexico because Mexico is a shithole country, like Trump said that so many countries are. It's funny, Andrew.
Well,
You
yeah,
can't
well, that's
you
the
can't
issue.
say the truth too much anymore because someone will be quote offended. Like I give a damn. Grow up.
Not anymore. I don't care anymore.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. And that's kind of how it breaks down. I don't really talk politics with anybody unless they start to talk to me about it, um, because I know, that just like the get out of jail card, they'll have the racist card, and this allows me to shut you up for no reason because I'm just saying you're a racist, whether you are or not. That's the race card. Anyone who pulls the race card basically is a racist. That's the one who's propagating racial discrimination in the country. There's so many things that I just disagree with the Democrats. I can't see myself um,
What
aligning with
about,
much.
say, something like, let's talk a second about sanctuary cities, which are places where people who are violating the law here illegally are supposed to be allowed to congregate and be protected from arrest, correct?
Yep.
But
Pretty nuts.
I'm asking you, Michael, if they're here illegally, why should they be protected from arrest when they are violating the law and our entire system of law?
They
Why
should
they
they
should
they
be protected?
they shouldn't be protected. But the reason that they are is because you see, Democrats have such a big heart. They only want good for everybody. They're such a compassionate people. That's why
If
they
you say
were the
that.
party of the Ku Klux Klan and the party of racism. People forget history very, very quickly, and it's not being taught in the schools too much anymore. So whatever PMN, MSNBC says, or the CNN, the cesspool news network says, that's kind of what goes. Um, and that's sad. We are raising a generation, I think, of
Just a minute, Michael.
morons.
I got another phone call. Give me a second, okay?
Yeah, sure.
1 second.
All right. That's interesting, folks. Yeah, it's a first here. We have another phone call. Maybe the person wants to talk to us. I don't know. That could be. Um, but it is kind of crazy. There's so many crazy things going on that it's hard to fathom that they really are happening. My only hope really is that media is actually propagating and pushing such a false narrative that most people really don't believe anything that they have to say. We'll find out come election time if there's any change. But I got to tell you, I mean, if the Democrats get in, you can forget this will not be the
All
United
right,
States
Mike.
as
I had an
anyone has known
emergency
it.
phone call, so let's move on. What do you want to talk about?
Let's see. How about the fact that that Israel is an illegitimate country because of its founding?
Uh, First of all, okay, the United States is an illegitimate country. We took it from the Indians. Therefore, we shouldn't be here either.
Well, isn't
I
like
mean,
every
first of
country
all,
been, was taken from
Israel
somewhere?
was established by the British government in the Balfour Declaration. It was about 1920, and they first of all, let me say this about Israel: any Palestinian that lives in Israel, as opposed to their own countries, is doing fantastically better.
Oh yeah, no question about it. No question
I
about it.
mean, so that and
And
so illegitimate country. It's a country which was founded. It was recognized that this should be a Jewish state, and particularly after the Second World War, there was a compelling reason for the establishment of Israel. I mean, given the horrible events that, in fact, many people deny the Holocaust. By the way,
oh sure,
there's a group that does.
sure, I know. I know. It's my friend's
Yeah,
parents must have
they
just
do.
tattooed themselves for fun.
I think they a lot of the academic left denies it. I think.
I don't know how many. I really have not read like stats on that. It's kind of hard to deny. I mean, and well, maybe it isn't. Because I do know that when Eisenhower started to liberate some of the camps, he told the reporters there, "Take all the pictures you want here, because as sure as I'm alive, someone at some point in time is going to say this never happened."
Well, first of all, I mean, look, Michael. I mean, unfortunately, it is the truth and reality of 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 our of the world that essentially, when these things occur, it could be Rwanda, could be Pol Pot, it could be the Russian Revolution, and of course the Holocaust. When they occur, nobody does anything.
Hmm.
I don't know if you noticed that. There's no intervention. Most government just let it happen.
Sure.
And then afterwards, they make a kind of a facial, say, well, that's terrible, and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, a lot of, well, I'm sure there are holocausts of some type going on now. It may not be the type
But
of
most of the
from,
time,
you know.
people pay no attention to these events.
And as a matter of
I don't
fact, I
think
think
so.
there was something I had read. I may be getting my Nazis wrong. Pardon me, please. But I think it was Goering and Hitler. And Hitler said to him, "Do you remember what happened with the Lithuanians?" And they were talking about whether they should go onto like full concentration camps with extermination. And Goering said, "No, just then don't worry about killing the Jews, because there was a
I
gigantic."
think that when these events occur, I'm convinced of this. Essentially, a decision is made by most governments to not do anything.
Yeah, but who wants to get involved with this? You know what I mean? And
Yeah, and also these people who are being killed have no power. If it was oil, like as there was in Iraq or Kuwait, that is a power commodity, and so Bush and fought like hell for those resources. But with his defenseless people involved, nobody cares. They have no power.
that's true. That's true. Um, and I don't know what you could do about that. I think that's still human nature. I think that people in the United States don't want to really get involved with these kinds of humanitarian wars, if you will, in other countries either. We got enough of our own thing going on. Um,
Right.
so I what can I say, Andrew? I hope things work out. I'm just really hopeful in the next election that we have a second term of Trump, because I think his hands are tied too a little bit. And once there's a second term, then I think he'll be able to do a lot. The one thing I really wanted him to do, why I voted for him, was drain the swamp. For a long time,
Mm.
I've realized that our government no longer works for us at all. It is the problem. The United States government is the problem, and problems don't solve problems.
Well, I have to ask you, Michael, and this is a question that maybe nobody can answer. Do you believe that there is an actual election anymore?
Yeah, I think that right now there still
You think
is.
there is an election?
Yes, yes, I think that there is an election. Um, I think if there wasn't, Hillary Clinton would be the president now, and she'd be in the process of finishing Obama's work. Obama,
Mm.
I think, was to create a shithole, and Hillary was to flush the toilet. Um,
Let me put this question to you, Michael. You know that many liberal Democrats said that only sort of stupid, high school educated Rust Belt workers who lost their jobs voted in the South and Midwest voted for Trump. He got 60 million votes. I'd ask you, how do they know what occupations these people had, what their educational level is, and how can they know in a secret ballot with their 60 million votes who these people are? It's a
oh,
lie.
they can know that because they are so much smarter than you, Andrew. They are so elite. They know exactly what's going on, and you don't know. I mean, that's why we can have socialism. You see, that raise you just got? Give it to me. I know better how to spend your money than you do because you're an illiterate moron. I mean,
Well,
forget that
that's what
you.
they're implying by these kind of statements. Yes, they're
Sure.
implying they think a lot of people are stupid.
Well,
Well, they're stupid.
even people who support them. I mean, if you really look at what went on with the black community in the United States, what the Democrats are saying is basically you're too stupid to do it alone. You need the government to help you out because you can't do it yourself. I mean, this was Obama.
Right.
You didn't do that. You can't do that. Uh, that's the whole idea.
Did
We're
you know
so
it was Obama that brought over those Somalis to Minnesota? Somebody told me that.
I didn't know, but I got to
Well,
tell
there's
you,
there's a huge number of them in that state, and they're practically running the entire state.
all I can tell you is I took my son. This is many years ago. I'm talking about at least a decade or so ago to Ann Arbor, to Michigan, because he was contemplating going to the University of Michigan at the time,
Oh,
and
that's a good school.
phenomenally good school. He was going to be part of their
It's a
scholars
fantastic
program.
school.
He decided actually to go to Case Western,
Oh, that's good too.
which is really interesting to me.
Mhm.
Maybe another show and another topic. But the reason he chose what he did was because he likes to do things the hard way. He doesn't want to do things the easy way. And he knew that in a small school he'd be watched, and he knew he could just
Mhm.
easily get lost in University of Michigan. Um,
It
but
is a good school though.
oh yeah, it's a great school. It's a great school. One of the top schools in the United
Let me
States.
let me ask you this, Michael.
Hmm.
Um, what was I gonna say? Uh, well, do you have something that you want to tell me that I might want to respond to?
Oh, okay. Well, we talked a little bit about Israel and a little bit about Jew hatred. I understand. Can you tell me in your mind what is the difference between being religious because religion has caused a lot of wars and a lot of strife and a lot of death. What's the difference between being religious and being spiritual in nature?
Well, I think that religion and religious usually involve specific tenets and ideas and concepts, whereas spirituality, which is an attempt to recognize there is non-material elements in the world, is not a set of beliefs. I think that's the difference. Yeah, whether Judaism or Christianity or Buddhism or Hinduism. These religions involve, and of course Islam, involve specific beliefs and and tenets. There's a specificity involved in these religions, whereas in spirituality, the person is sort of trying to find the person recognizes that there are non-material elements and thoughts in the world, and they regarded their interpretation is to be spiritual. I think so.
All right, that's pretty good, pretty good. I like that because I think in a similar fashion, in that as someone who's a Jew, um, I know a lot of people who are religious, and they may know how to put on prayer shawls, how to say the
Mhm.
prayers, how to keep
Mhm.
kosher, but they have no idea why.
Mhm.
They have no idea why they're doing any of it. And the why is the most
Tradition.
important
It's a
part.
tradition.
It's a
Many
tradition. And
religions, for many people, it's just a tradition.
mhm,
Why do Muslims wear those headdresses? Probably they do it because it's a tradition within their system to maybe to do that. They may
sure.
not think too much about it.
Yeah, but I mean,
Uh,
to me,
yeah,
tradition is very different than spirituality.
yeah,
Um,
it is right. But
and things,
that's when you've correctly defined these actions as I think they can be defined as traditions. I mean, whether wearing a prayer shawl or keeping a kosher household, or in Islam, for example, of going fasting on Ramadan, whatever they do, and wearing those headdresses.
mhm.
These may be for many Muslims simply sort of not even really thought about, sort of things that they do in their system, and they may not give that much thought to the whole thing.
I remember when I was koshering a house, I had a very religious rabbi do it with me, and I'm asking him, well, why do we need to keep kosher? And he goes, who are you to ask? Who are you to ask? It says to do it, so you do it. And then I went to someone who I thought was of a more spiritual nature, and he told me the reason why. And the reason has nothing to do with tradition. It has nothing to do with, oh, it was so unhealthy to eat pigs back then.
Right. Uh-huh.
It had nothing to do with that at all. It just had to do with the word kosher means fit. And just like there's food
Right.
as above, so below, just like there's food that's fit for your body, there's food that's fit for your soul. And you can believe it or not, but that's why. And when you're saying prayers, you're not saying, oh, gee, thank you, God, for giving me this apple. What you're doing is let me have the right consciousness so I could release the energy from the cosmos that's stuck in this apple out and back into the universe. And
That's true.
that's spiritual kosher. It's
Right.
it's a
Let
lot
me
different
ask
than
you
what people
this,
think.
Michael.
Uh-huh.
This is a dynamite question. Do you believe that obviously the Muslims, when they get power within their own countries, it's oppression. It becomes oppressive. It becomes oppressive essentially. They seem to have a problem with women. They keep them under as an underclass group within their own societies. That's a fact,
Sure.
and their own societies operate. They won't allow any other ideas or religions to come into their countries. They operate by force within their own societies. Correct?
Yeah, it's against their religion to allow other religions.
So they don't let anybody any differences of opinion. So I ask you, do you think in coming to this country or England or Scandinavia that is their goal to reincarnate their system and to gain control of the other system and
I don't even think
eliminate
I
it.
don't even think it needs to be a goal, like a goal. Like this is what I think. I think it just happens as a matter of fact because this is how they are. This is the society they bring back. They certainly don't want to learn about British history. Um, they're not coming to assimilate and become good Brits. They're coming to go ahead and to do their own thing, which is what they've been doing for centuries. And the same
So
thing
you're
here.
saying I'm just saying to you the basic reality of their societies that they operate by force and oppression
Um, in their own societies, yeah,
within their own
yeah,
countries. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that's how things work.
because they'll throw gay people off the cliff. They'll go ahead and they can't have a woman go ahead and drive in certain places. Certain places you have to mutilate their bodies. I mean that's
Right. So
I
that's what I'm
guess
saying. Do you think you don't think it's a articulated goal in coming to the West? You don't think they're coming for the purpose of a kind of conquest by force?
I would think that there are many of them that come over and they're jihadists and that's what they want. In terms of what's the percentage of Muslims that are jihadists and would like that to happen? Um, I I'd have to look at stats from a whole bunch of different places, but I would assume it's at least 25% that actually have that as part of the reason why they exist. I think many of the others just go ahead and follow along, like we talked about earlier. I think many of the other ones are, some of them are actually secular Muslims. They don't wear the head garb. They go ahead and
They
run their
probably
lives.
are. I think so. Well, do you think that the solution to this problem could be that they will be secularized in the West? In other words, they'll have to drop
Hmm.
to some extent these very mandated requirements of the headdress or the whatever they do, that they will be affected by our modern world.
I'm sure they will be, and a lot of them that they don't like that. They just don't like that at all. Um, I saw a very interesting movie this weekend called "Blinded by the Light," and
Hmm.
it's about a Pakistani family in Britain, circa 1980s, I guess. And that's the dichotomy. It's the dichotomy between the young son who wants to become, who considers himself he's British, and the father who says, "You're never British. You never will be British. You are Pakistani. You are Pakistani. And when it comes time for you to marry, I will choose your wife." And that's kind of like the dichotomy of you going ahead and trying to be a free thinker by yourself, which I think there is less and less in the world now anyway, and going
There
ahead
is a
and
lot
just
less of it.
and just following what you're used to. It's so easy, Andrew, to just follow what you've been doing and sit there.
Mm.
That's
Let me ask you this, Michael.
just sit there.
Do you think that the United many people have said this to me, many they perceive and feel that our society is going down intellectually, in a lot of ways.
Oh,
Do you think
no,
that's true?
no question about it. I mean, you just look at school systems. Um, right now, school systems don't teach you how to tell time anymore. Like they don't have clocks with the faces on them. It's all digital. There's no such thing as handwriting anymore. They don't really teach American history anymore. As we discussed
No,
earlier,
they
many
don't.
of the history of the United States, I mean, American history, if you take history, is very, very limited and a very small part. The Holocaust isn't really taught too much anymore. There are many changes that have occurred in the educational system, which I don't like. I was an educator. I mean, my master's degree is in education. I taught for the New York
Mhm.
City school system for 7 years. I've been an adjunct lecturer at Brooklyn College. I've been an adjunct
Mhm.
lecturer at the Broward College down here in Florida.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
the quality of kids and the maybe I'll make up a millennialistic kids are really a different ilk. I mean, you have people going for
Well,
doctorates in professional schools calling their mommy up to talk to the dean.
so you do agree that there's been a downturn
Oh,
in
absolutely.
thinking.
In thinking, absolutely. I mean, people always say, "Oh, we want to be so We want to be so inclusive of everybody. Everybody should come in. Diversity is the key. Diversity is so important. Diversity is bullshit. Unity is the key. Diversity is never the key. And the only unity you have, and you need to have unity. There has to be a reason to be an American. You have to unify about something. You get your power in unity. That's where it comes from. It doesn't become. It doesn't come from understanding and accepting every single culture in the world and treating them equally. It doesn't come from being diverse and having this type and that type. And
But that's liberally ideological thinking that everybody's. Look, I don't say that. I'm not arrogant, Michael, but the idea that everybody's culture or everybody's opinion or everybody's thoughts are absolutely equal. I'm sorry. There are Albert Einsteins. There are Mozarts. There are all kinds of people. There are outstanding people. Everybody and everything is not the same.
I agree with you 100%. I think there are certain cultures that are so divergent to ours that they shouldn't be here. I mean, you can go to extremes. There are certain cultures and certain groups still that practice cannibalism. I wouldn't be able to
Well,
say,
don't you think there's sort of a movement in the United States to say, well, you can say anything you want as long as you want to say it, and really, there's the implication that falsity and frankly stupidity is not a factor, and that anything you say about anything is valid. That is absurd.
as long as you're a liberal or a progressive or a leftist, that's true. If you are not, then you are today. What are we? Oh, we're racists today. I kind of liked it better when I was just deplorable. But
Let me ask you this,
irredeemable
Michael.
and
We talked
deplorable was
about
nice.
this. This has been a great interview. I really enjoyed it. I don't mean to interrupt you, but you
No, go
mentioned
ahead.
one thing: morality. There is no morality. The idea has become established that as long as you do what you want and you don't bother anybody, then there is no moral standard. Correct?
Yeah. Again, I think that's true. If you're a leftist or a Democrat or of that ilk, yeah. Yeah, you make up your own morality. I mean, look, if you think
Yeah, you
you
do.
know what I think would be great? Why doesn't Trump come out tomorrow and admit to the world that he's actually a woman? And not only that, he's a lesbian woman. So now we've had the first female lesbian president because he said so. And he feels that in his heart, Andrew. He really, truly, truly feels that. You know, um,
Well,
it's, like we talked earlier, sometimes people cannot, in order to be politically correct, in order to go ahead and suck up to their own party and feel that they're part of the flow, they can no longer speak the truth. Now, there was, and forgive me because I don't know exactly what sport it was, but I think it may have been wrestling or boxing, and it was female boxing, let's say, or wrestling, and one of the people who was challenging this woman was a transgendered man.
mm-hmm.
Transgendered guy got her in the ring, cracked her skull open. She wound up in the hospital, and no one
Right.
said, "That's because you're fighting a man, you idiot." It was like, "Oh, well, she won fair and square. I could tell by her erection." No, I'm only kidding. You don't say that. But you know what I mean? I mean, you can't say
You know what
what's
I say to myself
obvious.
when people say everybody's the same? I say, I can't be a football player. I can't be a concert pianist. I can't be a novelist. There's a lot of things I can't do that more talented people than me can do. Well, that's my position.
To me, it's even more cut and dry. No one is equal to each other. Everyone is their own
No.
little fingerprint. I don't have the money that Donald Trump has. I'm not going to get the same health care that Biden gets. I'm not going to be able to push my kids into very expensive schools because of my money. I'm going to be able to survive and have a good retirement. There are people who won't be able to do that. I mean, everyone is an individual. That's why I'm for the individual. To me, there's no great committees. There's only great individuals, and everybody is succinctly different, and it's supposed to be that way. And anyone who tries to
Right.
create in school, I don't know if you know this, there's no such thing as a melting pot anymore. Now it's called a mixed salad. Now, you understand the difference. Melting pot was everyone became
Yeah.
Americans. Mixed
Oh,
salads
that's
were
right.
the mixed salads were well, you know, this is a tomato and this, but you know what? Some people don't like tomatoes. Some people don't like peppers. And so the mixed salad approach, which is what our kids are being taught, is just to me is it may be actually the case, but it's not a helpful case. Like I said, the only thing that will work and keep people together is unity. You have to have a common cause. And unfortunately, in the United
That's
States,
right.
unless there's some horrific event, people don't become unified. Diversity. No, diversity stinks. I'm sorry. That's
That's
not where it's
true.
at.
I never thought about that point. That's a very valid point. Let me ask you this. Uh, do you believe that that the kids in our educational system, other people have said that to me, who are a little more conservative in their perspective, like you and me, they are propagandized from kindergarten to college on the left ideological spectrum.
I
They
believe
are
that's
100% propagandized.
today. Yes, that was the case. Today, I believe that is the case. Now, when I was teaching school, and I was a school teacher in New York in the 70s, that was not the case.
Mm.
And certainly when I was a student in the 60s, that was not the case. The teachers loved it when you argued with them. They loved it when you would fight with them and debate with them. You didn't have to worry that you were
Mm.
going to fail unless you were calling people names, and no one did that. You know, I mean,
Mm.
I remember sitting in a lecture hall, and the professor was talking about being black, and some guy yelled out, "You're not black, you're brown." She said, "I'm not white,
Mm.
I'm pink." And they were arguing about actually black English at the time, which people I'm
Mm.
sure don't remember, you know, and they were trying to push that,
I
but that's
remember that.
okay.
Yeah. I
You know,
remember that.
remember,
Yeah.
improper English is now okay because black people are
Black
saying
English.
things.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Hmm.
And I remember sitting through lectures where people are trying to conjugate verbs going, he gone, that means he is gone. He been gone means he's been gone a long time. And he done been gone is he's gone and don't ask me about it anymore. I don't want to hear about it. And, you know, and this was actually being pushed by professors in colleges. So everyone, I think in the back and like in my past too, we always had these, they were crazies at the time. You know, I
There
forget
was
that.
more interchange. Yes, there was more exchange of opinions in the past. Yeah, not today.
And the other thing is that we had our nuts. We had our crazy people with Bella Abzug. If you lived in New York, you know who she
Yeah,
is.
that's right. Yeah, I remember
But
that.
no one took her seriously. No one was going on and
She
agreeing
was
with her.
allowed to express her views.
She
Yeah.
expressed her
Hmm.
views, and everyone went, "Shh, okay," and they moved on. It's not like Omar and Talib um, that you know, after they say things that are anti-Semitic, that the House of Representatives comes up with this mamby-pamby, loose-fitting apology,
It was pretty weak.
you
It
know,
was
that could
pretty
have been
weak.
said at any point
It
in
was.
time about anybody anywhere. You know, I mean, it's just
Well,
terrible.
they included Islamophobia in it. They addressed the anti-Semitic issue, and they included Islamophobia.
Well, sure, sure. God forbid you should have fear that someone will lop your head off. You know, or you know, there are just some truths you can't say. We can talk. I can do a show on that. Truths you can't say. Um,
Okay.
you know,
Listen, I
you look
really
at
enjoyed the
black
show,
crime.
Michael.
You know, it's crazy. It's crazy what goes on. So I'm going to ask you a final question because I've had a lot of fun. I hope you have
Go
too.
ahead.
Where do you think this country is going to be in 5 years?
I am extremely concerned that there are forces in this country that I think are bringing it down. I can't say where it will be, but I sincerely hope that does not happen. But I think there are forces. I described some of them to you, you know, in terms of people illegally coming here and getting residence and becoming citizens when they're not citizens. There are and also the issue of Muslim immigration. These are forces to me that I'm concerned about. That's all I can say.
All right. Well, excellent. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Folks, you're listening to The Michael Blum Show. As I'm prone to say at the end of each show, because I need to get some type of, not levity, but some truth out there, real truth out there, is that everything in your life, folks, is certainly possible. Fewer things are
So long,
probable.
Michael.
Take care now. Fewer things
was
are
good.
probable, but one thing is for certain, and that's you're alive. So go out and enjoy your life, because tomorrow is promised to nobody. See you next time around. Welcome to the Michael Blum Show, where we talk about things you don't want to talk about. We talk about sex. We talk about politics. We talk spirituality and substance abuse. Join us by calling 800-699-0980. Think, speak, and be heard. Here now is Michael Blum. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Michael Blum Show. I'm glad to see everybody here, or hear everybody here. Trying out some new technology tonight, so hopefully it works. I'll go ahead and test it out later. It doesn't have anything to do really with the broadcast today, but I do want to give a caveat, a warning right up front. This show is going to be talking about nakedness and being nude. Therefore, there will be some video that may have naked people. If you are under 18, you probably should not watch it. There's nothing sexual that's going to go on. It is just to talk about the state of the art of being naked in the United States and elsewhere in the world. We do welcome callers if you'd like. The phone number tonight is 800-699-0980, 800-699-0980. Usually we do these interviews as a video thing, which would have been neat. We're going to have Deb Bowen call us, and she basically is a lifestyle expert, particularly as it deals with being naked in a optional clothing environment. So I'm going to give her a buzz in a moment and get her on the show, and we'll take it from there. Like I said, I do have a video or two. I don't know if we'll get to it, but we'll kind of wing it a little bit. I told Deb I'd call her around 8. I really don't want to keep her waiting. So I'm going to give a call now. Hopefully she's there and we can just get her on the air and everything will be just hunky-dory. So give me a moment and we'll give a buzz. One ringy dingy.
Hello. Who's calling? Hello.
Hey Deb, how you doing?
Good.
Good. This is Michael Blum Show. Welcome. You are on the air with us.
Wonderful.
Are you still up in Tampa? You still?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you're still doing your thing at the Caliente Resorts.
I am.
All right, awesome. Anyway, folks, Debbie is a lifestyle and clothing optional expert. She's a professional entertainer. Don't get that wrong. I believe you're a singer par excellence. Is that correct?
That is correct. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, well, you say naked and entertainer in the same breath,
Right.
And you can get some interesting phone calls, I guess.
Exactly.
We've talked to Deb about this subject before, but for some reason, I think Deb will explain it. No matter how much we talk about being naked or whatever, if you're you're riding on a bus or a train, and someone walked into the car that you're in naked, some people laugh, some people hide and get kind of like ashamed. Some people get pissed off and yell, and it's such a natural way to be. That's how we're born. That it's always an interesting topic of conversation. It seems, no matter what you do or however you. No matter how you slice it. I guess people do have still insecurities about being naked, and I know I certainly do. I would feel very uncomfortable if I was walking out in the street. Though subconsciously I'd like to do it, Deb. I might hang out in the backyard with almost nothing on.
Well, that's the reason they have, nude or clothing optional beaches or vacation destinations or cruises or, resorts or clubs or whatever you want to call it. Because, between you and me, everybody's going to look and laugh if you walk down the street naked now because it's not legal. So it would be like if somebody, walked on their head backwards with twinkle toes on their feet. People would look and laugh. But when you put yourself in an environment where other like-minded people are doing the same thing, you'd be surprised that you're just not as surprised as you think you're going to be.
So it's really a matter of the environment. I guess that's there must be ways also if you want to get used to being naked that you could actually kind of change your own environment in your own house. Like I guess do it first in your house.
Absolutely.
I guess maybe take clothing off while you're cooking. Though I don't recommend it if you're deep frying. You don't want to. God forbid you have some accidents like that. It'd be kind of crazy. Why do you
No
think?
blisters.
Why do you think people basically seem to be just afraid of being naked? Is it just a matter of conditioning? What do you think?
Yeah, it is a matter of conditioning. I mean, America was founded by the Puritans where everything was bad, but we've come a long way, baby. And I really believe that if people were more honest with themselves when they speak about this, you would realize that they're a little more nude in their own home than they would want you to think. Because everybody is a little more comfortable with a little less on.
That's true, but you know what? I mean, everyone's got their thing. At no point are my feet ever uncovered, Deb.
And we'll see, there you go.
This is maybe that's my fetish, but my feet are as smooth as a newborn's ass. I mean, they are pampered and all of that. So I never expose them, and I'd look very funny. I think more funny if I was naked and I was also kind of just wearing socks.
Oh, you would be surprised. It's so funny. I drive to resort in the winter. Even though it's Florida, we do have winter. We don't have winter. We have cold fronts. That's another show. But I see, for example, you might see a man doing his morning, walk, power walk, and he's wearing a cap and a shirt and a sweatshirt and a jacket and tennis shoes and socks and no pants. No pants. You would see a woman who has, pants and shoes and shirt and jewelry and a beautiful clutch handbag and no top. It's okay. Dress at your own comfort level.
Yeah, well, that's I guess it depends on the area, like you said, or the environment you're in. I would,
True.
I would have major concerns about shrinkage because the coldness out there. But you know what the hell, it doesn't make a difference.
It makes less difference there than you would think, more than anywhere else, because nobody really cares. It's the one that don't think they're going to have shrinkage that gets surprised. That's just normal.
Normal fears, I guess, or at least male fears.
Exactly.
Why do you think that society, a large portion of society, thinks that this is wrong?
Well, that scale is tipping more and more every day. You see such a big difference on television now from what there used to be. Even, what was it, last year, Jergens hand lotion had a nude girl jumping off a diving board into a pool of lotion with nothing on but a ribbon. Nothing but a ribbon. So it's becoming more and more acceptable. The media drives society, as we know. So once the media starts incorporating it more into their advertising and television shows and topics and subject matters, then it becomes more acceptable.
Do you think that there will be a time when it will be absolutely acceptable and we'll see, I guess there's certain places in Europe, it's weird because it seems that in Europe, like the colder the environment, the colder the country is, the more that they would like to be naked.
Well, they appreciate the warmth. So when they get a chance to be warm, they want to be warm all over, expose it all. So I do think there could be a chance that the country could go topless. I don't think anywhere is going to be completely nude. There's way too much stigma attached to having a nude country. Like you said, I think that would cause a lot of problems on the bus on the way to work when, you got a bus full of clothed people and 2 or 3 or 4 walk in that's naked. But as long as there are clothing options at nude destinations and beaches, even Carnival Cruise Line does nude cruises a couple times a year, and they're all sold out. So it's just not as taboo as you might think it is any longer.
It's interesting you say that because I think I did do an interview maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago with a group up in Boston, at the Boston Improv. Once a month, they have naked comedian night,
There you go.
and you know, maybe it's if the jokes aren't funny, you got something else to laugh at, or or maybe just it adds to the joke experience. But they do that. It's gotta. So now it's gotta be. That's gotta be one of the toughest jobs I think in the world. You have to make someone laugh while you're standing naked on a stage. Um,
Especially when, you grew up in theater with them telling you that, if you get nervous, just picture your audience naked. So let's flip to that
well,
theory.
that's it. It's a kind of a little bit of a reverse psychology, I guess, going on there. Um, Now there to me there's a difference between the Caliente Resort, for instance. You're the PR manager, marketing manager for them, and that's a clothing optional resort, folks, located up in Tampa, and
Yes, just north.
just north of Tampa, and gets phenomenally good reviews. You should check it out if you have any interest in this kind of subject or in seeing what it's like. You'd say it's very very friendly, first time friendly.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you can go ahead and feel very comfortable there and just see what it's like. I think if you're a single guy, it's going to not be the place for you to go to just to go to, from what I'm reading about the resort, because I don't think that basically single men are allowed to go in. Am I correct?
For the most part, single guys can come in if there's a group function or something, because we do allow single ladies in. However, they pay a different fee. And it would be like we wouldn't probably allow if a group of 20 or 30, big college guys got out of a bus and said, hey, we're going to the nudie place.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend that they go to the strip clubs in downtown Tampa.
Right,
I
something
would tell
else.
them that, this is not what you're looking for, but, there is in Tampa, keep it moving. So you do try to ensure that the reasons that people are going there are the right reasons, and it's really not hard to tell. And that's what you have security for. So you do just like you would anywhere.
Yeah, I guess you must have some interesting security stories about people that needed to leave the premises for various reasons. Um,
Either told to leave or trying to sneak in.
well, that's it. One or the other. Get out and don't go. Getting them out and keeping them out. That's it. What is the difference between what happens at the Caliente Resort and, let's say, a naturist resort?
Well, the biggest difference is, there's three types of categories for nudists. There's naturist, nudist, clothing optionalist. Clothing optionalist allows you to dress at your own comfort level. As I said, if you want to wear a winter parka in July by the pool and that's it, that's fine. Nobody cares. If you want to be naked when it's 30 degrees outside and all the Floridians are wearing the parkas, but you're from, upstate New York, that's fine.
We have a popular joke down here in the southern part of the state is, how do you know it's winter in Tampa? And the answer is that the natives are only wearing one sweater. But
Actually, we don't have winter. We just have cold fronts.
that's it. And we got one now. Are you in Florida? Or are you reaching somewhere?
No, I am in Florida, and I do have. I'm wearing socks, which you wear all the time. I don't.
See,
I'm wearing socks and a sweater.
to be appropriate, I can show it to the audience, I guess, if I wanted to. I'm actually wearing Christmas socks.
Oh, how lovely!
Because nothing like having Saint Nick on your feet. And, that's because it's just a little cool out here today. I mean, it's Florida, for people out there, frigid Florida is like today. It was like 55 during the day. Most of the United States at this point in time would probably relish that temperature, but
Exactly.
that's what goes on with it. So do you see any changes? You've been doing this over 10 years, am I correct?
Absolutely, yes, I have.
Are there any changes that you really see between the people that come to you now as compared to the people that came to you earlier when you first started?
Yes, we draw a younger crowd. Originally, the nudists have a bum rap where people think that it's all really old people who sit around a campfire singing kumbaya. Um, but Caliente is different than any of the other resorts, whereas we cater to a younger crowd or younger minded crowd. We like to have fun, we like to have parties. Everything that you do at a resort, say in, Vegas or California, Miami Beach, we have the same thing there. We have a beautiful nightclub, we have live entertainment, there's a top rated spa, there's all sorts of events that go on all year long. So everything happens that Caliente that would happen at any upscale resort. You just don't have to wear as much if you don't need to.
So that's it. So it's a good experience to get out and go ahead and try if you have any inkling at all to do so. Um, it's funny because if you look at the pictures of Europe, and I have a couple of videos, I haven't done videos when I'm talking to someone just like on a phone like this. So I don't even know if you would hear the video. So I don't know if I want to put you through that. Maybe when we're done, I'll play one or two videos and talk a little bit more about nakedness. Um, but I've seen pictures of people from Europe that are naked, and I got to tell you, folks, if you're into lascivious, arousing stuff, you don't want to go there. I mean, taking myself for example, I'm about 5'10". I'm in my early 60s. I have a bit of a stomach. And I don't think I'd be the most wonderful, gorgeous thing that you'd want to look at naked. It's,
But I have to correct you there because just because one person doesn't find the looks of another person attractive doesn't mean no one does. And my favorite saying that I coined years ago is you may not be perfect for everyone, but everyone is perfect for someone. So you don't know that there's not a sweet lady over there looking at you going, that's exactly my type. I'm so glad I came here.
well, I guess you allow all sorts of weirdos in, huh? Only kidding.
No judgment, no judgment at the nudist resorts and clothing optional. Everybody's welcome and there's something for everybody.
That's good. That's good. So if you wanted to go ahead and just have some good dinner and whatever, you can do that and relax. And even
Absolutely.
if you're not into,
Beautiful piano bar. Sit on the veranda overlooking the pool by the waterfall. Give it a
so even if you're not into being completely naked, you could be kind of naked, or certainly not be afraid to get comfortable, I guess. Um,
and little by little, you find yourself becoming more and more comfortable in your own skin, as it should be.
Now, what's different about now? I know you're not at the Caliente Resort every single moment. So, what's different about your lifestyle in general, as compared to people who are not nudists or clothing optional folk?
There's just really no difference. Even whether you live in a nudist environment or you only frequent them on the weekends or on your days off or on your vacation, nothing changes other than maybe your attitude and your attitude towards other people and the attitude towards how you treat other people and understand that everybody's different, nobody's perfect. There are very few beautiful models in the world. That's why they get paid so much money because there's so few of them. And that people are people and just accept people for what they are. So I think that's the biggest difference that I learned when I switched from a completely textile lifestyle to a clothing optionalist lifestyle.
All right, excellent. Do you think this is something that can work for everybody, or really there are certain people you think probably you're just better off not getting involved?
I don't think anything is perfect for everyone 100% of the time, but I do feel, because there's always going to be that 5% that you just don't know about. But I do think that it could be something that 95% of the population could and would enjoy if they just opened up their mind and relaxed a little bit. Stop judging yourself before you even know if anybody else is.
It's interesting too. Before you mentioned that as media becomes a little bit more involved, um, that maybe the lifestyles in general in the United States will be a little less, for better term, prudish.
Absolutely.
when it comes to clothing. You know, you can be as prudish as you want with everything else, but um, yeah, you know, it's days going to come where if I go ahead and I need a surgery, my surgeon may have like tattoos from his forehead to his feet and have like a bone through his nose. It could be I see a lot more of that decorative kind of a thing going on. We did get a phone call. I'm going to see if I can go ahead and merge these. Okay, hold on for a
Sure.
sec. All right, we should be there. Hi, how you doing, caller? What's your name and where you calling from?
My name's Larry Boyd. I'm calling from Daytona.
Daytona Larry. How are you doing, Larry?
Well, I'm having. I've I've got one of you on the computer and one on the phone, so I'm gonna have to turn one off. I'll
Yeah,
turn off the
you'll just get
computer.
confused to death.
Yes, I am.
You're still there?
Anyways, I'm gonna.
I hear you.
Okay, good. So what's going on, Larry? You ever been to the Caliente Resort?
Well, it's cold as Daytona, so we're not going to know. We're not going to the only new beach we have here is, Powell Beach. It's just south of New Smyrna,
So you
but it's really cold.
now I know Larry for a long
Yeah,
time.
we have one.
Folks. Larry's a frequent caller to the show, and he's shared with me nude skydiving pictures and all sorts of stuff. So I know that clothing optional for you, Larry, is not a big deal at all.
It is not at all, no. And I've taken a couple of. They're not. Oh, there you go, Doc. Now you just came up on my screen. You got it fixed.
See that? if you try,
Now we're delayed.
yeah, just try not to do two sources
So
at the
I'll.
same time. It'll be confusing.
All right, I'll stop looking. I turned the volume down, but I was watching. Anyways, no, I've taken a couple of younger than me females over there, and the first time, and it made it very enjoyable for them because it was, well, to me, it's natural. I've had my card years and years and years ago, but it's lapsed.
All right, but you've experienced it. That's very good. Deb, do you think this is a good place to take a date if they are so inclined?
Oh, certainly. And we even host singles weekends and singles events there. So if you're looking for somebody to share the experience with, there's even a chance that you can meet someone there.
Awesome, awesome. Everything else good with you, Larry?
Yeah, I try every day, Doc. It's not. I don't have a lot of big support here, so I love that. But right directly behind you, that little statue that I see over there on the corner.
Yeah, you'd like that.
That makes me happy every time.
Yes, thank you for that. Larry's helped me decorate this office with some very expensive art, so I want to thank you, Larry. And Larry,
It's a pleasure seeing you.
do you have any questions
I'm trying. Do I have questions?
for Debbie?
Just, I actually just came on right there, so I don't know what you guys were talking about. Maybe I'll listen a bit more and have some questions. But I think nobody should be ashamed, of course, and to go. And most people are too prudish to go to any clothing optional event. Although, of course, I like the Fetish Factory. I think even over and talked to Glenn over there. Now his
That's
things
correct.
are
That's correct. Not,
they're not exactly
my thing, but I know you're into it. It's whatever you want, whatever
Well,
floats your boat, bud.
me, but yeah, it's fun.
Okay, so
Deb, do you know who the Fetish Factory is?
I don't know if Debbie heard you.
I didn't know.
Now there's a group down here that runs like a fetish like
The
weekends
world's
and
largest
clubs and stuff like that.
Yeah, they have a whole week, Memorial Week, and they rent out, the Howard Johnsons, they rent out the whole hotel.
What was the name of the group?
It's called the Fetish
Fetish
Factory.
Factory.
No, but I can tell you that there are various lifestyle groups that do that. They go to hotels and they take over a floor and they have their events. And it could be that you would know about it, or maybe you're there with your family and you don't know about it.
Well, this is actually, they rent the whole hotel, so there's nobody, if you're not associated with that, you can't do that whole week.
Maybe a
It's a
business
whole,
opportunity there for Deb. You know, she can get the folks maybe to rent the Caliente Resort and do what they do there.
See, we've done that as well. We've done resort takeovers as well.
All right, cool. Very, very good.
We don't discriminate against anyone.
That's it. That's it. Larry, it's a pleasure to hear your voice.
well,
All right, take care.
I didn't hear, Deb, where you were from. Where are you a local in Florida, or?
Yes, I'm over north of Tampa from Caliente Resort.
Caliente Resort. Okay, well, I got your phone. Well, maybe that was back to the phone number. I'll get the information again, but I travel around. Maybe I'd take your advice and go to some other places to go to.
Yeah, cool.
Definitely. Come on over, Larry.
Yeah, I'm
It's not that far. Daytona's not that far.
Yeah, just a little ride.
Well,
Jump.
As long as it's motorcycle friendly, because I love my little blue bike.
Absolutely. We even do bike shows. We have antique and custom car shows. We have bike shows. We have themed events with motorcycles all the time.
The day I bought that one, I put it in Dr. Blum. He opened the doors for me, and I put it right in the middle of his lobby.
That was fun. Actually, when I tried to move it, it almost got a hernia. That was pretty funny, too. I didn't realize how much they weigh. Anyway, Larry, it's great to hear your voice. If you want any of the numbers, for Caliente Resort, just let me know when we're done. Take it easy, bud.
Okay. Will do. I'm going to listen.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
All right. So you're still there. My gosh, I did this correctly. I'm so used now to doing a lot of the video stuff. I don't really use phones as much as I used to. You had mentioned earlier, though, that you thought that if TV and the news and all of that started to do this kind of stuff with not being so afraid to show the naked body. And again, I'm not talking about sex or anything like of a lascivious nature here, just to go ahead and show the naked body from time to time as it pertains to news or whatever. I think that people would come around to it. Are you familiar with the fact that there are some news channels? I guess they're not on regular TV, but they actually do naked news and things like that?
Oh, yeah, there's a naked news channel in Europe. I think there's one in Germany. There's a few of them.
There's a couple of them.
And several web podcasts that you could find if you are good at Google. I can't think of the names of them off the top of my head, but
okay. I'm going to try something, Deb. If you can't hear what's going on, like in a minute or two, just interrupt me and I'll stop. I have a couple of videos I wanted to play for the audience.
Okay.
This one's kind of long, but I'm not going to play the whole thing. But this is what we were just talking about, so it might be interesting to watch.
Welcome to this edition of Close Free TV. Today we're at Black's Beach in beautiful San Diego. Nudes in the News starts right now. Welcome to this preview edition of Nudes in the News. I'm Red.
And I'm Brian.
And we're nudecasters for the show.
In the next few minutes, we're going to show you clips of some of our previous episodes of Nudes in the News. You'll get to hear all sorts of interesting stories about the world of nude recreation, and join us as we visit nudist resorts and public lands where it's legal to be nude all over the world.
Be sure to visit closefree.com where you can become a member and watch all of the previous shows on your computer.
Or if you prefer, like I do, to watch the shows on your home television from the comfort of your recliner, you can buy all of our shows on DVD just by visiting closefree.com.
You can also have...
So anyway, that's Nudes in the News. Could you hear any of that, Deb?
I could, yes.
Oh, okay, good. So you can't see. At least you could hear what's going on. So that's that's Nudes in the News. That's a little bit different. It's not like naked TV, but basically it's I guess all the news that the naked would want to hear or see, or that's fit to print. So there are such people in different places that are trying to do these things.
Absolutely. I've done a couple of segments at Caliente with some, relative, for example, Jesse Waters from the Charles O'Reilly show has been to Caliente, and some pretty big, influential newscasters have been there to spin a positive light on the nudist clothing optional lifestyle. a little, it can be a little worrisome when you don't know what they're going to ask or say, but the reports have always been just gleaming positive.
It's funny. I like Jesse Waters. Every now and then, if I have time, I'll listen to Waters World because I just
Yeah, he's really
just
great guy.
he has a bizarre outlook on conservative politics, and it's fun.
Hmm.
It's just fun. Um, so there's an organization. Is it AA? I can never get it. AARN.
AANR, American Association for Nude Recreation.
Okay. Are you a member of that?
I'm not sure if we're a current member of that. It's not a requirement. They're a group that handles more of the legal issues of the nudist industry, whereas they do nude, and more clothing optional. But if you want to know anything about most of the resorts or destinations, that's a very good source to check out because they do offer an awful lot of information about nude recreation and nude lifestyle across, America and the world. I think they do have an international section as well.
All right. So that's interesting. So that's the American Association of Nude Recreation. I take it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Cool. Where do you see? Oh, I got to tell you something else. This is something else because when I do research for the show, and let me tell you, it's a lot of fun to do naked research. I mean, not that I did it naked, but it's fun to look up and try to get your research together. And I come across some of these nudist colonies, I guess you would call them. And then I look at the Caliente resorts and the pictures and everything that you have on there. And the pictures you have for the resort show really healthy, nice-looking, beautiful young people having fun, having a drink, dancing, swimming in the pool, that kind of thing. And then I go ahead and I look at some of the pictures from the nudist resorts, and I see Grandpa naked with his great-granddaughter on his lap. And to be quite honest, between the pictures that I see at your place as compared to the places in the nudist camps, I guess you'd call them, I find them to be a hell of a lot more creepy, you know?
Well, yeah, and they're becoming more and more obsolete as more people are choosing to live under their own conditions. I mean, I have a saying, why would I leave an environment where I'm forced to wear clothes all the time just to go to an environment where I'm encouraged to be naked all the time? I haven't gained any freedom there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there are places like Caliente that are 21 and up. We happen to be at 21 and up. We don't allow kids at Caliente.
Okay, so you're not gonna run into any naked children splashing in the pool.
No, nowhere. 21 and up.
I always said to my wife when we had kids that were young and in the house that a vacation with children is like no vacation at all. So
Exactly.
I kind of appreciate the fact that it's 21 and up at least. So that's pretty good.
And most of the pictures, I am thinking now, 90% of the pictures that are on Caliente are of people that actually go there. We have a travel section, a travel page buried somewhere that, is for travel underwriters and travel agents and such. But you can go in there and find it. And we do have pictures of just our guests, just members. Obviously, they've all signed releases and have agreed to it. A lot of people don't want to be, used in advertising at the Living Option Resort.
Yeah,
But we do use our real people. Most of the pictures that you see are of the members and guests that you could meet when you go there.
Yeah, I guess it can be dangerous because if you're there with someone other than your wife, you may not want to wind up on the webpage.
Exactly.
That could be the case. I want your
Or maybe a future job prospect or something like that.
Yeah,
Unless they're truly.
If you're going to be a politician, still even at this point, unless you're I almost said something political, and I'm trying to. So we'll forget about that. Yeah, we'll forget about that. I need to get that little sound effect in here. I can click every now and then. I want your opinion on this. I'm just curious what you think. If you look at entertainment, and entertainment has tons of nudity in it, the odd thing is that if you're going to see naked actors and actresses on a film, you almost never will see frontal nakedness in a man. It's okay for women for some reason, but not for men. Do you have any Any idea why that might be?
No, I've often wondered that. I really don't. I really don't know why. I don't know why.
Okay, well, you don't need to know everything, um, so that's okay. Now, I found a clip.
Maybe it's because some guys are growers, and if they're not ready, they wouldn't want that side of them to be portrayed.
Well,
Only, you know.
I would assume that are really legitimate. Well, you know what? Not for me. Since you can hear the videos, I want to play another one. It's very, very quick, and it is an actor. And I found this because it's talking about this
Hey
very
guys,
subject.
I am working from home today, and I just wanted to kind of expand on something that Brian brought up in an earlier video where he was talking about nudity in film. I've started to kind of notice that when there is nudity on film, I often hear individuals in the audience say, well, was that necessary? On occasion, I feel like I hear it in regards to violence, but primarily nudity, especially male nudity for some reason. I think we're just used to seeing women naked, which is a whole different story to go into. But anyhow, I was kind of wondering what that was about and why people tend to have this kind of strong, visceral reaction to seeing males especially, but anybody naked on screen. And I tend to think that that might have something to do with this fear, this fear that at our core we are all vulnerable, naked animals, and we're delicate and we're fragile, and people don't want to think that, especially in regards to men for some reason, which is, complete bullshit, but whatever. No, this doesn't take away from the fact that as an actor, we, of course, have consent. There's contracts to go over in regards to all that kind of stuff. And for me, as an actor, it's like totally dependent upon the film and the script itself. But if it is the right project, and I think it's necessary for the film, then yeah, I am willing to go there, because I believe my job as an actor is to bring that character to life, and that means all aspects of that character's life. The vulnerable, the scary, the dark, all of the above. Tell me what you think.
And the naked, I guess. So, didn't really answer the question, but that is an interesting one. Is why is it so much more appropriate for naked women to be seen than naked men? It's always a big deal in a film if there's frontal male nudity anywhere there. The grower shower thing, that could be, but
Yeah,
usually these, well, you take like a movie like Boogie Nights. Mark Wahlberg had prosthetic penis he was wearing. It wasn't him.
exactly.
So for a lot of these things, if a guy was concerned, and they try to make the women look as appealing as possible, and they could do the same thing, I guess, with men. And usually these are just fleeting images. Maybe someone running out of a shower, or
And angles, yeah.
yeah, it's usually not. It's usually not the crux of the movie is this guy being naked walking around or anything like that. So that could be part of it. But I like the guy when he said that everyone basically is a naked animal, and that's very difficult for people to accept or admit. So you cover up.
But it's correct.
So I think that was a pretty interesting way of looking at it, at least. So what do you think the future of the Caliente Resort is, and the future of nudity in the United States? How do you think that's what's going to happen in the future with all of that?
I just see it expanding and becoming more mainstream and just part of life and society. There's so much to be hung up about. Clothes just doesn't have to be one of them, and especially over the last couple of years with the body acceptance and just live in your own skin and appreciate yourself for what you are is making a dramatic difference in people's opinions of nudity. Like I said before, one of the problems is people judge themselves far too soon. I mean, they would not permit themselves to go and experience that because they put the judgment on themselves first, saying they're worried about what someone else is going to say about them. But it's really what they're saying about themselves before they even entertain the thought of doing something else.
Right. So it's not so much the people looking at you, which you kind of expect and might be interesting for a while, and then it becomes kind of boring in a way.
Yeah.
I remember seeing,
Yes, it does.
I remember seeing a topless review in Vegas many, many years ago, and after about 5 minutes, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
You kind
Yeah,
of,
it's just not a big deal.
yeah,
It's really not.
you kind of, if something really different happened, that may be different. If you shake your breast and a milkshake comes out, that might be interesting.
Yeah,
Something,
there you go. Exactly.
something
I'd watch
different.
that too.
Something different, but not so much. Not so much in the show. So it's a matter of, I guess, what you are used to seeing, what you perceive. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. As a matter of fact,
Absolutely.
if we want to look at a place really to kind of examine, which I may do in a little bit, is that nudity has always been generally accepted in art. Not always. I mean, there are times when I think Michelangelo paintings, they had to put panties on the women and cover the men up, and fig leaves because the church would get crazy about it.
They've always had it. I mean, throughout eternity, there have been carvings and paintings and structures and things of the naked body. Even in the Catholic Church, I have pieces of art. I have quite a nice nude art collection, and I have some pieces in my collection of art from the Catholic Church in the 1600s, where on the front it just looks like a normal priest with a nun. But if you turn it around, the nun has no clothes on, and the priest's hand is on her butt.
So that's interesting. It really depends on your viewpoint there.
Absolutely. So and this was something that was displayed in a church, and the only people that knew about it were the elders of the church. And there's a whole story that goes with it. So it's just something that's been a part of our society throughout all societies. Just the acceptance of it is becoming more prevalent than it's ever been before.
It's a lot more prevalent out in Europe. I found one other video. I'm not going to play most of this, but this is, art is interesting now because it's gotten particularly avant-garde art because sometimes it's close to not being art, or it depends again on your perspective. There was an artist who did an art exhibition, and the piece that he did was called Piss Christ. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I do know that piece, yes.
So you know that basically what it is. It's a crucifix with Christ on it dipped into a bottle of urine, and some people applaud that as major art. And particularly in Scandinavia again, I found this one clip. It's 8 minutes, but I'm certainly not I'll play maybe about a minute of it, if that. It's called the Body and Freedom Festival. If you want to see naked art, or what is considered naked art nowadays, this is pretty much where I think you would go to find it. Some nudity here, folks. If you don't want it, turn it off. Well, and there you have it, folks. Just a conglomeration of people kind of naked, rolling around on the floor in some choreographed form. And that's art, folks. That's art. It's okay. You see, it's okay to be naked. As a matter of fact, I'll probably do that after I'm done here with Debbie and before I go to sleep. I'll try that. That may be a good way to start. You start being naked by just going to sleep naked, and then eventually you walk around the house a little bit more naked, and then you go ahead and you call up Debbie, and she sets you up for a wonderful, wonderful weekend at the Caliente Resort. Deb,
That's a fact.
If people want to get in touch with you or make reservations at the resort, how would they go ahead and do all that good stuff?
Everything is available on the website. That is calienteresorts.com.
And that's all you need, folks. CalienteResorts.com. Deb, I want to thank you for joining me this evening. Folks, I've been talking here, about 45 minutes or so I'm going to take a quick break. I'll come back, and then we'll end the show. Again, thanks for joining me this evening, Deb. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me back. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure too. All right, folks, you're listening to the Michael Blum Show. We're going to be back in a couple of minutes.